Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock. This is City of Heroes. We are with Liberty Lass. We are level 39. And we have under a million, under 7 digits left of XP to go to get to level 40. We are on our final story arc of the 3.5 season, the Revenant Hero Project. We have to defeat 20 Cray in Brickstown. I think we're going to complete that mission because I don't like those. It's only 20, but yeah, I don't want to deal with it. And then now we're going to go talk to the Can Man. I think this is a freak show guy to find out what's going on with the Revenant Hero Project. This is the Cray who are trying to create a breed of superheroes, basically the Paragon Protectors. But with Cray, of course, this is quote unquote superheroes because it's actually people working for the Cray to do evil things and pretending to be superheroes so that the government doesn't go after the Cray. Right? It's yeah, Cray Corporation is basically Cryptic's take on Microsoft Corporation, basically. Alright, let's find the Paragon Protector evidence, and we're going to Founders Falls. It's interesting that the contacts for this mission, a number of them are in Skyway City. That's sort of odd, since it's a level 39 or 35 plus mission. Why would you be sending level 35s to a level 10 to 19 zone? Sort of weird. But in any case, so it's a Saturday today, and I've got to head out in a couple of hours to get some things done, and didn't really have time to do a whole lot else. So I decided to play some City of Heroes. I got done cleaning and running errands, and I actually baked a cake so that I'd have something for dessert this week. I always make something. I usually am lazy and make brownies, but this time I decided to try making a cake. And right out the bat, we get some Paragon Protectors, but this is a Lieutenant Paragon and a Minion. I don't think these guys have Moment of Glory. That's the one that's really a problem. I probably should have gotten some purples before coming in here, but hopefully they'll drop a few as we go. Yeah, this one has invulnerability. You could tell from the that these guys are doing that sort of whatever you want to call it, sound effect and visual effect is them turning on temporary invulnerability. Which again, remember the old original way temporary invulnerability works, and I think the way it works for all the villains is it's a click power, not a toggle. It lasts a certain amount of time and then turns off. Oh, there's somebody else. Oh, purple lieutenant. So the lieutenants and the minions are not generally an issue, other than misstreaks. Can't really do much to me. So these guys look like they're spines in Vuln, which is an interesting combo. And yeah, so again, I've mentioned this before. Originally, I think it was beta. I don't even know if it made it into launch. I'm fairly sure by the time I know by the time I was playing Liberty Lass, temporary invulnerability was a toggle the way these things are, and it gave you resistance to smashing and lethal as long as you left it on. But the reason it was called temporary invulnerability is that originally in closed beta, maybe it was even changed by open beta, but originally it was a click power that worked kind of like this, where you click it, and for some period of time, right, like this gets resistance for 2 minutes, but temporary invulnerability was much shorter than that. So it was something like it gave you 15 or 20 seconds, and then it took like a minute to recharge, and you could click it again. So it was something like that, and I think it was possible with recharge enhancers back then to get it so that it was essentially permanent, kind of like the way in Super Reflexes, the way the Mez defense works, the practice brawler. It was basically the same kind of a thing, and that's why it was called temporary invulnerability, because you were only invulnerable while it was running, and then it would turn off. And the tankers hated it because they had to keep clicking and clicking and clicking that power, and it would turn off at the most inopportune time, and then all of a sudden they're vulnerable to things and they're getting pounded, and they really did not like it. And so they changed it to a click power, but they never renamed it. And a bunch of these villains, I guess, were coded and created by the developers on the old version of Temporary Invulnerability, and they just left that version in the database for the NPCs. And even though Dr. Lila is a much newer NPC, she came out like a year or two, 3 after the game launched, maybe more. She came out quite a bit later because Fault Line is different now, and it was completely renovated as a zone, right? I'm not talking about in-character renovated, but it was renovated by the devs to make it a more playable zone well after launch. And yet Dr. Lila still has that old version of Temporary Invulnerability that she has to keep turning on. Right, so it looks artificially as an NPC like she's got a toggle that she's like one of these that she keeps turning on and off. And I remember the first couple times I played with her, I was like, why does she keep turning this thing on and off? And then I realized, oh, she's got that original version of Temporary Invulnerability where it was a click power and you had to keep re-engaging it, right? And so for whatever reason, they never converted the villain versions of the powers to whatever changes they made to the hero versions. That's why some of the defense powers seem so much better for the villains than they do for us as player characters, because the villains don't respect the global defense nerf. They were not nerfed when the player characters were. It was only a nerf, as I understand it, it was only a nerf to player characters, and that's why, like, if you see the invincibility when they turn it on for the behemoths or whatever they are for the Circle of Thorns, right? And they're just minions, and they'll turn it on. And the way invincibility works now is it gives you like, I don't know, 5% defense base and then like plus 5% for every additional enemy. So if you have like 3 enemies standing next to you, it's 5 plus 5 plus 5, right? What did I say? 3 enemies, it's 5 plus 15, right? 5 times 3. You'd have 20% defense, right? And if you've enhanced it, it'd be better than that. And yet, if you watch like me and you look at the stats, when I'm fighting a minion who turns on invincibility and I'm the only enemy standing next to him, and my 2-hit goes from like 95 down to 60, right? It's like 25% base. That's what it used to be when the game first came out. It was something like a 25% base, and then it got better as more individuals were stacked up next to you. So you could become, I mean, I remember standing in the middle of a group of enemies with invincibility on, and I don't even know if it was enhanced, and being literally unhittable. They were just whiffing. They were floored. That does not happen now. Now, if you stand in the middle of a group of enemies with invincibility on, yes, you'll drop them from a 50% base to like a 25% base, but you're not going to drop them to floored. Not that fast, and not with just invincibility. And so, yeah, the reality is that a lot of the powers for the villains work the old way, and for the heroes work the new way, kind of. That always annoyed me. I don't want the game to be easier, right? It's not like I want them to nerf the invincibility to the villains so that the game will be easier, but as you guys know from listening to all of my rants and stuff over the years, if you have, I am not a fan of games in which the rules that the NPCs follow are different from the rules that the player characters follow. I prefer it if everybody has to follow the same rules. One of the things I really like about Savage Worlds, for example, is that the GM has bennies, right? And so they're supposed to follow the same rules as the players on re-rolling, right? You don't just re-roll whenever you want to. You have to spend a Benny to re-roll, even if you're a game master, right? And I really like that, because then it applies the same rules to everybody. And it always irritates me in role-playing games when basically what they're doing is they're fudging the fact that they can't figure out how to make their AI, and by this we're not talking about generative AI, right? We're just talking about the algorithms they create to make the villains make decisions about what to do. They cannot figure out how to program their AI well enough to beat you or to give you a challenge. So what they do is they cheat it, right? They let the AI do things that they wouldn't let the player characters do. And I don't really like that. So we have 2 computers to access now. Just making sure we don't have any bosses up here, because those guys do take some thought to fight. These guys are nothing. Right? They're trivial. Yeah, they can't really do anything to me, as you can see. Even attacking me with energy instead of smashing or something, they just can't do anything to me. Or really, I mean, they could do a lot to me if I were in their world. They can't do anything to Liberty Lass. I have been very much enjoying this character. I don't know, thinking about it, I feel like I'd have to go back and look. I feel like, although this is a very good set, the Energy Melee is a very good set. Oh, she does have Moment of Glory even now. Even the minions have it. That's really upset. That's really overpowered. I'm just gonna keep swinging at her till I hit her. It's just not worth running away from this nobody. By the way, 12% to hit even with accuracy and build-up running. What was I saying? I've forgotten. But anyway, so we're talking about the game. I don't necessarily want it to be easier, right? But I don't like it when the NPCs don't have to follow the same rules as the player characters, or the player characters don't follow the same rules as the NPCs. It feels like the game is cheating then, right? How come the NPCs can do this and not the player characters? It's like an exploit. And to me, it speaks to bad game design in the sense that, or maybe not, yes, bad game design, but also very bad AI design. When you do those kinds of cheats, I mean, even like think about like tabletop role-playing games. Why does Dungeons and Dragons give bosses legendary saves? It gives it to them because the game is not properly designed, and you can't have the boss actually succeed without this cheat, right? On the other hand, Savage Worlds, the bosses get bennies, but the player characters get bennies, and the GM gets bennies, and it's just part of the game system. It's not a cheat. It's something everybody can do, right? Just making the boss character equivalent to a player character, giving it bennies, right? Which the minions, the extras, don't get. Yeah, I can't remember what. Oh yeah, somebody was talking about. This is just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's this thing called the Peasant Railgun in Dungeons and Dragons, and so this friend of mine has a game group. They're playing D&D at a gaming cafe, and I guess the gaming cafe has a Discord, and they have a channel, and they were talking to each other. And the one guy was like, "Well, you better not kill off my character, because I just found out about a really cool thing where I can do 500 damage with a level 2 spell." And he was chortling about it, right? It's some sort of an exploit, right? And like, I would love to know what this guy thinks is going to do 500 damage with a level 2 spell, which means you're like a 3rd or 4th level character. And the game master then replied and said, whatever it is, I'm not going to allow it. It's got to be something that either violates the laws of physics, violates the laws of the game, or both. And one of the things he mentioned that he thought it might be was the Peasant Railgun. And I was like, so I said to this friend of mine, what the heck is the Peasant Railgun? And it turns out I had heard of this before, but I'd forgotten about it. So the idea is that in Dungeons and Dragons, there is a type of maneuver you can do in combat called object interaction. And it's something you can do as a free action if it's something simple, or it might take up your action if it's something complicated like using a spell from a wand. And the rules are meant to be about how you interact with objects in the environment. Like, for instance, I'm just waiting for this guy's Moment of Glory to fade. You can see how silly this is. Yeah, okay, it's faded. It's just ridiculous that one power can make it so that I can't hit him. And it's silly to have it on a minion because he can't actually do anything to me. You saw I was just standing there letting him shoot at me. He can't overpower my regeneration. So, like, what's the point of the moment of glory? Just from a design perspective, very silly. But anyway, so you have object interaction, and object interaction is either a free or a charged action, right, in a round, and a round lasts 6 seconds. And so the idea is that if you count it, and this is the key, you have to count it this way, if you count it as an object interaction, there aren't any specific rules for this, but I could hand you an object as an object interaction, and you could accept it and then hand it to somebody else. Now, assuming the GM allows you to do that, then the idea is, if we're in, you know, on a gridded map, and each of these map grid squares is a 5-foot square, the way they are in D&D, and you can reach into the adjacent squares for melee combat or to hand somebody an object, and we picture in each one of these grid squares there's another NPC, right? And they all go on the same round because you usually roll NPCs as a group, so the townsfolk all go at the same point in the round on a 16 or whatever they're rolled for initiative. Okay? So in this one round that lasts 6 seconds, I hand this to you. You're standing here, you take it from me, you hand this to this guy. He takes it from me, hands it to this guy. This is all happening in 6 seconds because a round lasts exactly 6 seconds, no matter how many people go. Whether you have 2 characters fighting 1 or 20 characters fighting 50, a round lasts 6 seconds because everything's sort of assumed to be going on essentially simultaneously. So if you line up 1,000 of these guys all next to each other, and they all kind of do the object interaction during a combat round, and they pass the object from one to the other, mathematically, that object has moved 6,000 feet in 6 seconds, right? Which is 1,000 feet a second. So you're going really fast. So if you line up enough of them, you can basically get the object to be going hypersonic by the time it gets to the end of the chain. Because in order to get there in 6 seconds, it would have to be moving faster than Mach 1. And so then just have the last peasant who took the object, throw it, and hit a dragon. And it's going to do 1,000 d6 of damage because it's moving so fast, right? That's the peasant railgun. Now, obviously, that's absurd. But the problem with that, and the reason anybody ever came up with it, is because in Dungeons & Dragons, when you read the object interaction rules, they are vague enough and badly written enough that they don't actually explain what they're talking about, right? They give you 2 specific examples, one of which is doing something like opening a door in the middle of your move that you're walking through, or drawing a weapon as you punch somebody, or as you strike somebody. And they say you're allowed to do that as a free action, or that if the object has some sort of an interaction action listed, that usually takes an action, right? So what they're talking about is opening a door as you walk through, right? So you have 30 feet of movement, you move 10 feet, you open a door, and you continue 20 feet. Or, oh, this guy, I'm just going to ignore him. Or drawing your sword as a free action and then attacking somebody, right? Those are what they're talking about. And then when they're talking about something that can be used as an action listed in the item, they're talking about magic items that can do things like cast spells and stuff, and how that takes an action, right? That's what they're talking about. That's all they mean. And that's all they're covering in those rules, is opening some sort of a door or trap door, drawing a weapon, or using a magic item that has an action attached to it that you can use, like casting a spell, or dispelling something, or, you know, doing clairvoyance or whatever, right? It doesn't mean handing a brick to somebody. That's not really covered in the combat rules, and would probably take an action. But there's no velocity imparted, right? It's because the round is a convenience. And so just like when you actually do the movement, like people have talked about this in a lot of games. It takes, say, half of your movement, half phase action in Champions, or half of your movement in other games to stand up when you're on the ground, right? And then you can run for half your movement. And so does that mean that your velocity, your running velocity, like how far you can run a second, is different? Not really, right? It just means that it took you some time to get up, 3 seconds, and so then you only have 3 seconds to do your move or what have you, right? It's very clear that this is all abstracted, right? So that once you've abstracted something, you can't then specify and get back down to miles per hour because it's too late. You've already abstracted it. But if you look at the rules of other games, right, most other games wouldn't allow this at all. So I went and looked up, like, what would they say in Savage Worlds? Well, Savage Worlds does not have object interaction rules. But what it says at the top, there's a set of pages where they talk about all the things you can do on a round, all the types of actions you can take, like the defend action, or a multi-action, or riding on horseback, or whatever, the run, whatever. They talk about the different things you can do in a round, and what they say right at the beginning is that by default, the standard thing you do is whatever you're doing requires you to make a trait roll against a target number, usually 4. I have over aggroed here, so we're going to need some inspirations to fix that. So, like, what it tells you is if there aren't any rules for anything, make a trait roll against a target number of 4. And so there are no rules for handing anybody something, right? So as a GM, what I would say is, okay, in order to do this, you're going to need to make an athletics roll. Right, you and each person that's handing it off is going to need to make a successful athletics roll, right? And you'd never get the railgun to work because if you've got to have like 1,000 or however many NPCs lined up, well, the NPCs are probably D6 in athletics, if that, maybe D4, right? Let's grant them a D6. They're extras, so they only roll a D6, right? And they got to get a 4 or higher. 50% of the time they're going to fail, right? So the odds are one of the first 2 or 3 is going to fail. And depending on the GM, if you want, right, as the velocity quote-unquote increases, you certainly might suggest this. There's an option in Savage Worlds where if you roll a 1 and fail with a 1, the GM can choose to roll a second sort of pseudo wild die to see if you crit failed it. So now there's a chance, or if the NPCs happen to be extras, there's a chance, not only that they could fail the roll, which is like, 25-50% chance depending on what die they're rolling and whether they got a wild die, but also there's going to be like a 1 in 12 chance or whatever, 1 in 36 chance that you're gonna, is it 1 in 36? Yes, because 6 times 6. Yeah, so there's a 1 in 36 chance you're gonna roll double 1s and you're gonna crit fail it. And now it's going to be really bad, right? It's not just you failed it. Now you're like, so not only did you fail it, but it hit you in the face and did the damage to you, right? Because that's what a crit fail does. It does something really bad. So you like literally can't do this in Savage Worlds because if you tried, somewhere along the way there'd be a fail or a crit fail, and that would stop the chain. Right, and it wouldn't take long to generate a fail. With like 100 guys lined up, on the 5th one or the 7th one, it would just fail. So you wouldn't be able to do it at all in Savage Worlds. Right. Similarly in Champions, well, you'd have to make a grab. Grabs are done at -2 or -1 or -2. I can't remember. I think it's different from different editions, but the grabs at -1, let's say. Normals have an OCV of like 3 or 4. Right? So they have an 11 or less, or a 10 or less, or something to hit each other, to grab it from the other person. Right? Again, there's like a 50% chance you're going to fail it. So by the 3rd or 4th person, somebody's going to fail it and drop the thing. And that's the end of the chain. Right? So part of the problem with the way the D&D rules are written is that those rules are badly worded and don't really prohibit doing this, whereas the rules of most other role-playing games that I can think of, you wouldn't be able to do it. Because the rules are clearer and better written, right? So they're more clearly and more concisely, they're well written, they're better written than the ones in D&D. I mean, it's just unfortunate that a lot of the rules in the 5th edition books are actually very badly written. And I said to this friend of mine, yeah, that's why I don't want to play 5th edition D&D anymore, because the rules are basically broken. The other thing this guy was talking about was, well, the whatever abusive thing he was going to do, it was like, he was a 3rd level character with like 1 level of sorcerer, 1 level of cleric, and I don't remember what else, a level of bard, I don't remember. And I said, this is the other problem. They make multi-classing too attractive, and there aren't enough negatives to it the way there used to be in AD&D, where you would have, you had to split the experience points between the levels, so you're going to level up slower than everybody else instead of leveling up at the same rate. And there were other things that made multi-classing difficult, and so you could do it, but it didn't necessarily make you any more powerful, which is what should have done, right? Multi-classing should make you more unique and make you be able to realize a character idea that you couldn't do with a single class, but it shouldn't be that it's making you recognize the character idea that I'm uber and better and more powerful than everybody else. That's not what it should be doing. I said to him at that point, I said, I think the problem is, A, multi-classing is broken in 5th edition, and B, the rules are not well written, and as a consequence, that kind of an exploit can happen. And apparently, one of the other exploits that this GM talked about was taking like a swarm of insects and I guess polymorphing them into elephants and having them drop on everybody and crush people, right? So again, well, there aren't any rules for elephants crushing anybody in D&D, right? So you're now, as this GM said, taking some sort of a rule, and despite the fact that in other circumstances you'd say this is magic, real world physics don't apply, now you want real world physics to apply, right? And so yeah, that kind of stuff, I hate that kind of stuff. And that to me is, how do we get on this topic? That to me has to do with bad game design, right? And I think that there are flaws in game design that for computer games require the computer to allow itself to do things that it doesn't allow you to do. And I always get frustrated when I see that, because I feel like, okay, I understand that the computer has to give you a challenge, and they're trying to do that here, but it's cheap when the computer is suddenly doing something that you can't. I always remember, I think I've told this story, when I was in grad school, I started playing Age of Empires. This is going to be a level 40 contact, I guess. I started playing Age of Empires, and how much time are we in here? All right, let's do one more mission. Hopefully it won't take super long. I started doing Age of Empires, and I really liked it, but I got really good at it. And I got so good that unless I put it on hard, I could beat the computer. But when I put it on hard, the computer would just do these base rushes that were so brutal that it turned out that I could only really fight it on certain maps where the computer had a hard time finding you, so that it couldn't do the brutal base rushes. So finally I got sort of sick of this, because it was like, if the computer couldn't find me, it was so incompetent that I would just build well enough to like out-tech it, and then once you've out-teched somebody, you can just crush them, right? If I didn't do that cheat, so that was too easy. If I didn't do that, if I let the computer come to me in one of the more open maps, it would just crush me. And it would get way ahead of me, and it would just build so many like swordsmen or whatever to come attack me. And I'm like, how is it doing this so fast? So one day I recorded the game, playing on hard, very hard, whatever the hardest was. I recorded the game, and I watched the recording back right after it was over, and what I saw was that every so many minutes, I'm watching the game, I'm looking at the computer, all of a sudden, and there's a boss, okay. We're going to try to stun him, but I don't know if it'll work. Anyway, I looked at the game, and I'm watching it, and everything looks fine, and all of a sudden I look up at his resources, because I'm watching it from the computer's perspective. All of a sudden I look up at the computer's resources, and I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, how, like, it had, say, 400 stone, 400 gold, 325 wood, right, 280 food, and then all of a sudden it had 10,000 of everything. Like, or maybe it wasn't 10,000 of everything, maybe it was 10,000 of one resource. I think it was this. And so what ended up happening was I realized that what's happening is, like, every minute or two, the computer was just giving itself 10,000 of a random resource or something like that. And I thought, this isn't the computer actually getting harder, right? It's just giving itself access to resources that I don't have. And so I got really annoyed at that, because I thought that's really not making the game... Like, the AI doesn't get any better. It's the same AI you fight on the easy level. It just gives itself free resources. I stopped playing the game, because on anything below hard, the computer couldn't touch me. And even on hard, on any map where it couldn't get to me right away with a quick rush, it couldn't win. So the way the computer was able to challenge me and essentially beat me was, if it was close enough to do a rush, give itself 10,000 early game resources, and then do the rush with those 10,000 resources it gave itself. And so now you're defending yourself against a completely unrealistic rush that no player could do, because you simply cannot get 10,000 resources that fast every minute, right? It's not possible that early in the game. And that just ended up, like, I found this to be boring and not really something I wanted to actually experience. So I stopped playing the game. Right? So I don't really like it when the computer is doing stuff. Oh, here's an enemy here. I didn't see her. The computer is doing stuff like that that's an obvious cheat, and it's obviously done because the developers couldn't figure out how to get the computer to play smarter and do an actual, real, good, high-quality rush. Somebody explain to me why these guys are only 40th level now when they were 41st level in the previous missions. Don't know. Alright, fighting another boss here. Trying to stun him as much as possible. Because with the stun, he might not Moment of Glory up. Got him. So that's one nice thing about the Disorient. Oh, I do want to mention, if you go back to, I think it's episode... in this season, episode somewhere 8 or 10, I can't remember, one of them. One of my users, one of my commenters, actually wrote out all of the difficulty settings that they used to have before you could just set the notoriety to whatever you want down here. And there are names for it, like heroic and invulnerable and stuff like that, and it says exactly how that works. So if you're interested and you want to know exactly what those titles were and how they worked, right? One is the base one is +0 to your level. You're going to face, it says mostly +0 and +1 enemies. The next level is you're fighting like the equivalent of ×3. The next level is you're fighting +1s, +2s, which is basically it's +1 missions. The next level after that, the next rank or whatever after that, you're fighting mostly +2s with some +3s. And so anyway, if you're interested in that historical information, it's in one of the comments of one of the videos a few days back. These guys are so annoying. You just cannot hit them until the Moment of Glory turns off. Again, I feel like a single power should not have the ability to completely floor you like that. Especially when you've got somebody with accuracy enhancements and stuff and build up running and stuff like that. It shouldn't be able to negate everything else in the game and make it so that there's absolutely no point to even fighting them. That's ridiculous. However, I will say that's what the original Moment of Glory was like even for player characters. And there were regen scrappers who could perma it. And I don't, if somebody wants to explain how they used to do it, I don't think you can anymore. But yeah, perma Mog, they used to call it, perma Moment of Glory. Those were the two, right? Perma Elude and perma MOG, perma Moment of Glory. Perma Unstoppable, right, for the invulnerability set. And again, what people used to do is they wouldn't have to take any of the other defenses because perma Unstoppable was better than all your other powers together. Perma Moment of Glory was better than all your powers put together, right? So you would just take those and whatever passives you wanted. And somebody else also commented, because I was talking in one episode about why would you need to have your whole attack team just be 3 powers? Why can't it be 4 or 5 powers? And I guess the answer is that because you've got to focus on pool powers to get your defenses up to the defense caps and the resistance cap. But then the person pointed out you really only need to do that if you're going to be soloing Incarnate Trials, right? If you're doing this, obviously you don't need to do that, right? Because I haven't done that and we're fine. How are we doing on enhancements? We've got a few. Yeah, I feel like this story arc, there have been a lot of very large lab levels. Now, since shut down the lab for good, my guess is this is going to be a defeat all. It doesn't really say it, but it makes sense that it would be. So we'll try to take out everybody. Okay, don't see anybody there. Another elevator. Is that everything on this level? I guess so. Okay, well, we're going to treat this as a defeat all and take out everybody. So what I was saying at one point, right, that I've played this character and I'm really enjoying it, but I feel like looking back on my previous brute, Quintessence Lass, I feel like Quintessence Lass was I feel like she took out enemies much faster. Even at this stage. Wow, I'm getting pounded. So one of the problems with these guys is they're very accurate. Yep, they got me. I always get caught in this spot. I'm like, I can go in there. And nope. So there's another faceplant. That was an unnecessary faceplant. I should have taunted. Is this going to take me back to Craze Folly? It should. Yep. Alright guys, I'll bring you back when we're back where we left off. Well, I realized we did not complete this level, so we're going to go ahead and do this. Yeah, I didn't think to hit this power, Strength of Will. That probably would have saved our lives. So as what I was saying was, I feel like this character's great, and I really like the energy melee a lot, and I like willpower, but I feel like the dark / energy aura was a vastly more powerful combo. I know I didn't think that for a while when I was struggling with wasn't Shadow Maul, but Dark Consumption. One of the powers, the buff power. It took me a while to like figure out the logic of that one, but once I had that figured out, man, that character was so brutal. And I feel like she felt a lot stronger than this one. I don't know if that's going to change as I level her up. We'll see. I'm being debuffed by the radiologist, so let's take him out. Alright. Since this is probably a defeat all, that was worth doing. And now we're going to head downstairs and try to not be so dumb in that other area. So this is only the second level here. So this is level 3, not level 5. There could be 2 more levels. Just depends on how big the base is. I feel like I said, I feel like a lot of these bases are much bigger than other missions have tended to be. Now let's pull them out and not be stupid. Yeah, they're very accurate, these guys. They hit a lot. I think because of the martial arts, they get plus 10% or whatever. I don't know if that's just a PC thing or what. Oh, there's a boss in here. I did not realize that. Okay, let's go ahead and buff up. Wow. He's a +2 boss, so that's why he's a bit tough. I would like to keep him stunned if I can so he doesn't mog up, but nope, too late. Alright guys, I'm going to head to the other level, wait a minute or two and come back. There's absolutely no point to fighting him while he's got Moment of Glory on, so I'll bring you back when it's probably off. Alright, we're back. I think he's still got it running. Should turn off shortly. It's been a while, like a minute. And you can see the endurance is taking a hit right now. I think it's just the recovery from this, from Strength of Will. That's what it's called, right? Yeah. Okay, he's still glowing. Let's go take these guys out over here and then we'll come back. One thing is, I don't think they can do it again right away. But yeah, I feel like, so that's a great example of, from a design perspective, that power shouldn't be so incredible that I have to literally walk away and go do something else and wait for it to fade. Because it's just literally not worth attacking him because you're going to whiff every time. It shouldn't be that good. No power should be that good. Okay, he's no longer glowing, so we should be able to take him out. Notice how I still missed him with 90% to hit? Okay, I got some purples, that's good. Okay. that spot in this room is not always, but sometimes is extremely tough, just because of where the spawns are and what they have there. And I have probably died in that corner more times than anywhere else on any map, anywhere in City of Heroes. And the part of the problem is, and why I get caught in it, is you can't always tell it's that room, because there are a couple other rooms that look similar, but also it's not all the time, right? It's maybe 33% of the time that this room has spawns set up that are just going to take you down if you don't watch. And the other 67% of the time, you can just waltz right in and kill them or defeat them, right? And so it makes you feel a false sense of confidence. Anyway, as I was saying, for whatever reason, Quintessence Lass felt a lot more powerful to me than this character does. I don't think statistically she was a lot more powerful at this level, but it felt a lot more powerful. So I don't know, we'll just have to see how it goes. I don't know how I'm going to feel, at the end. I think that once energy transfer is better enhanced, now that total focus is more enhanced, we'll be better off. You taunted me? Dude, I'm hitting you anyway. That taunt was useless. You gotta wonder why. I guess they're just programmed to taunt no matter what, in case you're in a group. I don't know. Okay, he's hitting me with cold, so let's hit up hasten so that whatever slowing he does to me doesn't actually harm me that much. Yeah, when that thing, what did that do? Like 200 and something damage to the cryo tank. When this thing, 212. When it's fully enhanced, it's going to be doing almost 400. Plus whatever the difference in the leveling, like when a higher level is. Man, these guys hit a lot. I think part of the problem with this character is no smashing defense. 5% is just trivial. And, like with Quintessence Lass, I think one of the things that made her feel so powerful was that they were missing her a lot because she was debuffing their 2-hit, and then she had a defense set rather than a resistance set. So there was a lot of whiffing going on. And that made her feel really powerful because she could just stand there, and they couldn't really take her health bar down because she was making them miss. And then she had the ability to do damage to them while draining their endurance and while draining their hit points, right? So she was doing a lot of, she was actually doing a transfer where she was draining them and it was adding to her health and stuff. Yeah, so this is another set, and there are several sets like this that players complained about, where as a defense-based character, a character that has both melee attacks or whatever, and then a defense set, you don't have any ability to heal yourself. I could have sworn Willpower used to have one of those, but things like Dull Pain which invulnerability gets, and also which regeneration gets. Things like what is it? Not fast healing, but there's one of the heals that you just is a click heal for regeneration. Okay, let's do a taunt here and not fight both groups. And so, yeah, a lot of the defense sets have a self-heal, and a lot of them don't, right? So, super reflexes, people used to ask, can we get a self-heal? They don't have one. I think ninjutsu might have a self-heal. So how come they get it and super reflexes doesn't, right? That kind of thing. Yeah, it's interesting that willpower doesn't have a self-heal. That's a click power. It's got a passive, but it doesn't have a click self-heal, right? If you go into the powers here, high pain tolerance gives you max health, right? And then fast healing gives you regen. And as I said, I'm very surprised. I could have sworn when they created this power set that they were trying to make it mostly based on passives. And this has only a small number of passives, no more than any other set. I'm going to go back and... I think I want to go back and look, because I feel like when I played a Stalker who was a willpower Stalker, I had a heal in the willpower set, but maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe that was regen. Look at this. I'm going to get killed again, because I can't hit these guys. Look at this. I cannot hit this guy. It's 76%, and I'm whiffing over and over again on him. And the other problem is that these minions with the martial arts, they don't do that much damage individually, but they hit constantly. I don't know what their to-hit is, but it's insane. Well, we can't take a look because we're running defense. I was going to say let's take a look, but we'll look after the defense fades. Because they can't hit me with the defense running. Okay, good. We got some purples back. Yeah, they're doing a number on me, and they're doing mostly smashing, which is what I'm good at resisting, but I don't have any defense. Alright, so our smashing defense is back to 5%. Let's put the hit rolls up, and let's see what these guys can do to me. There's the martial arts. So let's take a look at it when... Okay, so these guys are all doing martial arts. That's what I want, because that's going to show the two-hit. 55% chance to hit. And I've got a 5% defense, so that means their base is 58. It sure feels like they got a higher base than that. That's the level difference, right? It sure feels like they're better at hitting me than that. I remember even Silver Phoenix used to get pounded by these guys. In fact, her first death at like level 32. Her first, like, there was one where she died in a flashback, but her first actual death. Oh, this is the end of the story arc. Her first actual death was to two Kree infiltrators who were like orange cons to her. And they both simultaneously hit her. And like she had, say, 3/4 of her hit points, and it went boom, boom, and she was dead. And since they both simultaneously hit, I couldn't do anything about it. Okay, that's a boss, but not an elite boss. Let's taunt these guys over here. But yeah, they sure seem like they hit a lot for something that only has a 58% chance. So we're gonna sweep the room. I don't want to fight the boss until we defeat these guys. I don't know if he can summon more, or he can get them to come help him. I don't remember. I haven't done this arc enough times to remember. So these must be the little chambers, the little growth pods where the Paragon protectors are being, I guess, grown rather than born. You can see I can one-shot these guys now with build-up going. So he's blathering. It looks like we've mostly got this room cleared. And we've got some good purples. We don't have any greens, but the purples should be enough to hold him at bay. Well, no, there's more guys over here. Let's get them first. Alright. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have done that. Okay. There's a glowy over here. Okay, guys, here we go. At least this guy's not a Paragon Protector, so he shouldn't be able to do Moment of Glory. Probably didn't need all this for a boss rather than an elite boss. But I got face planted in this mission, so I guess you can't be too careful. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me face plant like a dummy. And this should take out the last enemy here. And that is the mission complete. And we got 27 reward merits, which puts us up to 258. We got about 342. We got exactly 342 to go until we get our next AT and final ATO enhancement set. That completes the story arc. And that completes Season 3.5, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let's go ahead and call our contact and get our XP. And we are now just 2 beads from level 40. Actually, more like 1.5 beads from level 40. So we should be getting more new contacts. Madeline Casey. Indigo, I really like her. She's got good missions. Janet Kellum. He already did it. Is that everybody? Oh, Samson. Did we check with him? New contact. Maxwell Christopher. So all of those guys are going to be available at level 40, which we're going to hit shortly. So I'm going to do some probably flashback missions or whatever. I'm going to get us to level 40, and then I'll bring you guys back for Season 4. And we'll have a new outfit and everything for Liberty Lass. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. And I actually have... Gosh, I don't know if I have it for everything, but I'll show you the costume change animation. But there's one that does fireworks, and I'm like, oh yeah, this character should be doing fireworks when she changes costumes. It's, 4th of July, etc. So makes a lot of sense. So let's head into the base, and then we will stop. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun. Thanks for watching Season 3.5, and I'll be back in a few days, or maybe right away, because there's a little delay between when I record these and when I upload them. I'll be back in a few days with the beginning of Season 4, Level 40, a new costume, and more adventures for Liberty Lass. Until next time, I am Scrapper, and this has been City of Heroes.